2025 is not only the year of flip and clamshell handheld consoles, it's also the year of dual screen consoles as well. With devices most notably coming from AYN and AYN, the AYN Thor is the console that had me the most excited. I say had me. Now, if you follow the channel at all, you know I love my handheld gaming, I love my retro gaming handhelds, and I love my original devices as well. And one of my favorite original devices was the Nintendo DS, and the Nintendo 3DS as well, I put in that same category, because the idea of a dual screen handheld is just something so unique and amazing to me. And there's so many different and unique gameplay experiences that you can have with dual screen over a single screen gaming handheld. Now, retro gaming handhelds and these emulation devices are nothing new at this point, and I have to be honest, I always wanted a dual screen retro gaming handheld, but I never really thought we'd see one. I didn't think manufacturers would think it was worth it to put in that extra screen just to cover off a couple of consoles worth of emulation. If there's anything we know about most of these retro handhelds, is that they like to keep the prices down, they like to keep them cost effective. We'll kind of end up in a situation where the norm is for manufacturers to just put out so many cheap devices that are pretty hefty in terms of the amount of games they can emulate now. I wasn't really sure it would ever be cost effective for them to take the leap in adding an extra screen and everything that comes with that. But over the years, we've seen a few more premium devices coming out, specifically from the likes of AYN and AYN. Now, AYN for me have always been a manufacturer that I've appreciated and that I've liked that they've done what they've done in terms of pushing the limits of the power of these retro handhelds. You know, before you stray into the world of handheld gaming PCs, which just boost crazy power and cost a lot of money, I think AYN sits somewhere in the middle between those gaming PCs and your average retro gaming handheld. They're more premium, they're more expensive, and they do push the limits of power. But they've never really been for me, because I've never found, although the power that they put out is cost effective at the time of their release, it always feels like if you just wait a year, the other device manufacturers and technology will catch up that you can get a device of equivalent power, maybe more pocketable, for a cheaper price. And that's the way I've always approached it. For me, I've always found Retroid's devices to be more palatable when it comes to cost. And anything I've seen from AYN, whether it was from the Odin 2, I've always thought, well, I'll wait until Retroid brings out something that's close to that power. It's going to be more pocketable and it's going to be more cost effective. But then AYN announced the AYN Thor, and that completely changed my perspective. If ever there was a device that I was just going to throw my money at, it's the AYN Thor. It is literally the device I have been wanting and wishing for. In all the time that I've been playing these retro handhelds, I've wanted a powerful dual screen device that could potentially be my end game device, be the only device I need for all of my game and emulation, all the way up to the Wii. I've said in previous videos, PS3 and Xbox emulation would be lovely, but we're just not at that point software-wise. Even top-end PCs struggle, even the handheld gaming PCs struggle to give you a full catalogue of PS3 emulation. And for some reason, people just don't seem to be interested in emulating Xbox, especially on Android. That for me is a whole nother discussion and an area that I would love to see some growth in, but it's beside the point. For where emulation genuinely can reach right now when it comes to these handhelds, the AYN Thor for me looks to be a potential endgame device. Now, the concept of an endgame device and what that means is a completely different video, but what it does mean is that it makes me willing to just throw whatever the money is at this device, knowing that it's not going to be the cost of, let's say, a handheld gaming PC, because that's not what AYN are about. They tried it with the Loki, didn't really work. I think they've kind of kept it with Android gaming now, and they're definitely staying under that $500 mark. Now, there are a multitude of options when it comes to the AYN Thor, ranging from a light with 8GB of RAM to a max with 16GB of RAM, and alongside that you get different storage options as well. Now, the light option currently retails at $250 and the max is $430. Now, that's a lot of money, but remember, if I say this is my endgame device, then I arguably don't have to buy another retro gaming handheld again. And if I'm going to do it, and I want it to be my end game device, I may as well go for the maximum power. That way it ensures that it is my end game device, that I don't need to, there's not going to be any areas that I'm skimping on. There's no like PC emulation that I'm looking to do that it struggles with. The max with 16 gigabytes of RAM and a more powerful processor should literally be all I need. So I did it. I threw my pre-order in and I'm happy as Larry, waiting for my AYN Thor to arrive. Until Anbernic announced that they're releasing their version of a DS console. And now I'm not so sure with AYN Thor. To be honest, I should have seen it coming. Like, Anbernic have done such a great job of creating these clone consoles which mimic Nintendo's greatest consoles to date, Game Boy Advance, the Game Boy Advance SP. And so obviously, what's going to be next? The Nintendo DS. Now technically it makes sense that that's where they'd go, but honestly, I didn't really expect Anbernic to do it. Maybe it's a reaction to the AYN Thor, maybe it's something they always planned. But what it means for me now is that I'm questioning my purchase of the AYN Thor. Now, will the Anbernic DS be as powerful as the Thor? No. Will it be as polished a console? Will it be as polished a design? Will it look as premium? No. The Anbernic DS, if it follows the suit of all the other clone consoles, should look aesthetically identical to a DS, and I think a DS Lite. And in some respects, that's amazing. Like, to play your DS games on a device that looks exactly like a DS is pretty much amazing. And as we know from the previous clone consoles, Anbernic will throw in the analog sticks as well, so you will get the benefits of the extra controls you need to cover all the other emulation options you'll have on a device like that. And it's absolutely certain that the Anbernic DS is going to be a hell of a lot cheaper than the AYN Thor, especially the AYN Thor Max. Now, maybe it's going to be comparable to the base model of the AYN Thor, and then there could be arguably more of a fair comparison between the two devices, because in reality, from a technical perspective, it's not fair at all to compare these two devices because, okay, they're both dual screens, but I think the similarities end there. The Anbernic DS is going to go for a classic nostalgic vibe. It's going to want to feel like a classic Nintendo DS. It's going to want to bring back those memories, and that includes the screen sizes as well. The AYN Thor, on the other hand, although it is a dual screen and it does obviously mimic the Nintendo DS in some respects, it doesn't give me the feeling that it's trying to clone it. It makes me feel like it's trying to create a brand new version of the Nintendo DS for 2025. And with that, it doesn't restrict itself to having to be identical to the DS in the fact that it will have a better screen quality, it will have a larger screen, controls will feel different, and overall it's going to be a more premium console that is focused on top-end emulation primarily and being like a DS secondary. The Anbernic DS, on the other hand, I feel is going to be focused more on being like a Nintendo DS primarily and a top-end emulation device secondary. But with the way Anbernic have been making handhelds recently, and with my ability to basically avoid AYN consoles and not have a need for them, it has got me wondering if I should just cancel my AYN Thor order and not worry so much about having this end game device right now. Just stick with the Anbernic DS, and then when the AYN Thor inevitably comes down in price, or potentially an AYN Thor 2 comes out, maybe get myself the AYN Thor Max then, and save myself a few $100s or a few £100. Now, I'm not 100% sure, and I would love to hear what your opinions are. Anyone who's thinking to get the AYN Thor, anyone who's waiting for the Anbernic DS, or anyone who's looking at some of the other options out there as well. But there is one thing I am absolutely certain of. The Retroid Pocket Flip 2 has been my absolute favourite retro handheld to date. It is my go-to that I have with me everywhere all the time. No matter what other device I am testing, I still have this one with me. And so that tells me that, for me personally, the Flip clamshell design handheld is exactly what I want from a handheld. So to add a second screen into this kind of concept is going to be absolute perfection for me in a retro gaming handheld. And I've got no doubt that whether I get the Anbernic DS or the AYN Thor, I'm going to love them. If you want to get your hands on the AYN Thor, links will be in the description below. And when the listing for the Anbernic DS pops out as well, I'll pop it in the description as well. However, if you do want to find out more about the Retroid Pocket 2, my favourite console to date, then check out this video right here.